Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Today we're going to be covering Daniel 11, verse 12, and basically going into the history of how Ptolemy the Fourth tried to cast down Israel. But before that, recap previous verse, Daniel 11 and 11. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north, and he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. Now the king of the south at this time was Ptolemy the fourth Philopator, and the king of the north, Antiochus the third the Great. And this is going into that battle of Raphia, or the fourth Syrian war between the two, in which Ptolemy won. That's why it says, but the multitude shall be given into his hand, because Ptolemy the fourth, he won that war. Daniel 11 and 12. And when he hath taken away the multitude, meaning, he won, his heart shall be lifted up, meaning he had got proud, and he shall cast down many 10,000s. Now, looking at the map here of where that battle of Raphia took place, or the fourth Syrian war, we see here Raphia or Rapha. People use those that interchangeably, but Raphia is actually a place near Rapha, and we see Israel is over here. Now, I showed that to bring up that, going back to Daniel 11 and 12, and when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s. Now, those people he cast down were us. That was Israel. Because after Ptolemy had won this war, he went around to the surrounding areas. So he had came to where we were. And as later on, we're going to read how he tried to cast us down. By continuing, but he shall not be strengthened by it. Right? Because after Ptolemy had won the battle, he didn't go and finish conquering Antiochus III, or go reconquer what Antiochus had managed to take. All he did was just defeat him. He won the war, and he sent Antiochus back, and he basically let him retreat, which would come back to bite Ptolemy the Fourth in the back. What he should have done was go and reconquer all that land, but he didn't. He just won the war and let that be that. So, going to the book of 3rd Maccabees, here we're going to read about the history of how Ptolemy the Fourth affected us, after he had won the war, because remember, he had came around to where we were. The Battle of Raphia, which was that fourth Syrian war, verse 1. Now Ptolemy Philopator learned from those who had returned that Antiochus had captured some of Ptolemy's territory. Ptolemy gave orders to all his forces, foot soldiers, and mounted soldiers to break him. Along with all his forces, and accompanied by his sister Arsenal, he set out for the region of Raphia, where Antiochus' troops had set up camp. Now a certain Theodotus made up his mind to carry out a plot to kill Ptolemy. He took the best of the weapons that had been assigned to him from Ptolemy's own arsenal. He crossed over by night to Ptolemy's tent, intending to put an end to the war by killing him single-handedly. But Dositheus, known as Gemellis' son, had led Ptolemy away and arranged for an unimportant person to sleep in the king's tent. This person then met the fate intended for Ptolemy. Now this Dositheus was a Jew by birth, but he had changed his mind about their customs and had turned away from the teachings of his ancestors. When a fierce battle arose and things were going rather well for Antiochus, Arsenal went out to Ptolemy's army with pathetic cries, and with her hair all in disarray, she urged them to rescue themselves and their children and wives, and bravely promised to give to each man 2 minas of gold if they won the battle. And so it turned out that the enemies were destroyed in hand-to-hand combat, and many were taken prisoner. After overcoming the plot, Ptolemy decided to visit neighboring cities, to encourage them. By doing this and by distributing gifts for their sacred shrines, he reassured his subjects. So, we're going to read about what happened when he came to Jerusalem, because remember, it says he visited the neighboring cities. Looking back at the map, Rapha was right here, Israel was right there. Jerusalem was one of those neighboring cities. So we're going to read about what happened when he came to Jerusalem. Ptolemy Philopator at the temple. The Jews had sent elders and members of the council to greet him, to bring gifts of friendship, and to congratulate him on recent events. As a result, he was even more eager to come to them as soon as possible. So he traveled to Jerusalem, sacrificed to the supreme God, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, made thank offerings, and did what was appropriate for the temple. As he entered the temple, he was struck with amazement in its brilliance and beauty. And as he admired the orderly arrangement of the temple, he conceived a notion to enter into the holy place. So, and when we had our temples, there was a certain part in this holy place where only the high priests were able to enter. And even then, they were only able to do so once a year. First Kings chapter 6, the building of the temple. Now this was when King Solomon was having the temple built. Jump down to verse 16. And he built 20 cubits on the side of the house, both the floor and the walls with boards of cedar. He even built them for it within, even for the oracle, even for the most holy place. I was looking into this word oracle. Definitions: the Holy of Holies, the innermost room of the temple or tabernacle, hindmost chamber, innermost room of the temple of Solomon, most holy place, Holy of Holies. Right now, and this was that room that Ptolemy was trying to enter. He comes to the temple, he's starstruck or amazed at the temple, and then he sees this room and he gets curious, saying he's going to try to enter it. And as he admired the orderly arrangement of the temple, he conceived a notion to enter into the holy place. But they said that it wasn't right to do this, since even those of their own nation weren't permitted to enter it. Not even all the priests were allowed, but only the chief priest, who was in charge over all, and he could do so only once a year. But Philopator wasn't at all persuaded. So he's just like, yeah, I'm still gonna try to do it. Even after the law was read to him, he continued to claim that it was necessary for him to enter, saying, even if those persons are denied this honor, I shouldn't be, which goes to show just how full of pride Ptolemy was. Because like it said here in Daniel 11 and 12, here, his heart shall be lifted up. So his heart was lifted up. He was full of that pride. Verse 13, he asked why, when he was entering every other sacred place, none of those present prevented him. And someone said without thinking that he was wrong to speak of this as a sign. So Ptolemy is basically like, how come I was able to go through all these other sacred places without being stopped? But y'all over here telling me I can't enter a certain area. And then someone pretty much told him, they were like, yeah, you were able to do that, but you can't take that as a sign that you're pretty much higher than you actually are, or that you're above the priest to where you can go in there, but the priest can't. Because there's certain things that no man is above. But even if for some reason this were true, Philopator replied, why should I of all people not enter whether they are willing or not? Going back to that part is, he's like, why should I care if y'all don't want me to go in or not? The Jews' reaction. But the priests fell to the ground, still in their sacred robes. They filled the temple with crying and tears, praying to the supreme power to help them and to change the mind of the one who was wrongly imposing himself. So they were praying that the Lord would put the spirit on Ptolemy to change his mind so that he wouldn't defile or pollute the temple by entering into the holy place, that Holy of Holies. Those who were left in the city were troubled and hurried out, thinking something mysterious was happening. The young girls who had been kept secluded at home rushed out with their mothers. They sprinkled their hair with dust and began to fill the streets with weeping and groaning. Even the young women who had just been adorned for their weddings left the bridal bedrooms that had been prepared for the marriage night. Neglecting all proper modesty, they came together in the city in a wild rush. Mothers and nurses left newborn children here and there, some in houses, some in the streets, and crowded together in the Most High temple without looking back. So you see how no matter what they had going on, everybody had put it on hold to come to the temple, which shows you how important and how highly that we used to regard the Lord and the temple and things of that nature, because the Lord comes first. But nowadays it isn't like that. Nowadays our people, or people in general, don't even care about the Lord. But why is that? Why is it that the meat of our people, the majority of our people they don't even want nothing to do with the Lord? Why is that? Jeremiah 17, starting verse 1. The deceitful heart, the sin of Judah, is written with a pen of iron, and with a point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars. Whilst their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills, O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high place for sin throughout all thy borders. And though even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So the answer is right here. Our people have discontinued from their heritage. Verse 21, the people who assembled offered all kinds of prayers on the account of the evil plot of the king, right? So, evil plot of the king, because what was he trying to do? He was trying to stain the temple by entering into the holy place, even after being told that he couldn't. They even read the law to this man, and he's still just like, okay, whatever. But, like I said earlier, there are certain things that just no man is above. No matter how proud you are or how highly exalted you are, none of that. No man is above the word of the Lord. And an example of that, dealing with Uzzah, when he basically touched the ark, even though he wasn't supposed to, and he was put to death. 2 Samuel 6, I believe. Yeah, 2 Samuel 6. I'll jump down to verse 3. And they set the ark of the Most High upon a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in Gibeah, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drave the new cart. Right? Okay, so they're transferring the ark by cart. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of the Most High. And Ahio went before the ark, and David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on timbrels and on psalteries and on timbrels, even on harps and on psalteries and on timbrels and on cornets and on cymbals. And when they came to Nacon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of the Most High and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and the Most High smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of the Most High. So, because he wasn't obeying what the Lord had said, even though, he was trying to save it because it was rocking and shaking, about to fall off the cart or whatever, he still wasn't sanctified to touch the ark, so he was put to death. And that's just an example of how there were just some things that no man is above. You cannot just do what you want, no matter who you are. Where were we? Verse 21. The people who assembled for all kinds of prayers on the account of the evil plot of the king. Some of the bolder citizens weren't going to put up with his intended plan or fulfill what he had in mind. They rallied each other to attack with weapons and to die courageously for the sake of the law of their ancestors, creating a great uproar in the holy place. The old men and the elders were barely able to restrain them, but turned them at last to the same stance of prayer. Now the crowd in front of the temple was occupied in praying, but the elders standing near the king tried in many ways to turn his arrogant mind from the scheme that he had conceived. But he, being made bold and ignoring all their arguments, began to make his approach, determined to carry out his plan. So when those who were near him saw this, they turned together with the people to appeal to the one who was fully able to come to their aid, not to overlook this insolent transgression. So they're praying. An immense roar went up from the intensity and passion of the crowd's concerted shouting. Indeed, it seemed that not only the people, but also the walls and the entire land were echoing. But at that time, all were prepared to accept death instead of making the holy place impure. All right, so here it is. They're ready to die instead of let Ptolemy come pollute the temple, which once again goes to show how highly we held the Lord, how highly we regarded the Lord and the temple, and our ways. But it's not like that nowadays. Most of us don't even care. Moving on to the second chapter. Prayer of Simon. I'm gonna go past this, but this was pretty much the prayer that the high priest Simon had sent up to the Lord during, the midst of this, so that Ptolemy, wouldn't pollute the temple. And we're gonna see what the Lord had did. I'm gonna read about it. The punishment of Ptolemy Philopator. Then the Most High, who watches over all things, the first father of all, holy among the holy ones, heard this lawful prayer and scourged the one who had claimed too much for himself in his violence and arrogance. He scourged Ptolemy. The Most High shook him this way and that as a reed is shaken by the wind, with the result that he lay helpless on the ground. Right, so you can just imagine how Ptolemy's body went every which way. It was probably like I don't know if y'all have ever seen someone have a seizure. I have, but yeah, if you guys have watched like Fairly Odd Parents, and you got the teacher, Mr. Crocker, how when like Fairly Odd Parents, and he starts to, his body starts to freaking move all type of ways. That's probably what it was like for Ptolemy. His limbs were paralyzed, and he was unable to speak, since he was struck by a just judgment. His friends His friends and bodyguards saw that the punishment that had seized him was severe. Fearing that even his life might fail, they quickly dragged him out since they were terror-stricken. After a while, the king recovered, and even though he had been punished, he didn't change his heart and mind at all, but went away issuing bitter threats. So here again, he's showing all that pride. Here it is. The Lord had just judged told me, but as it said, he didn't have a change of heart or mind. So, now let's see. Slakia. Let's see what he threatened. These threats that, let's see how he tried to cast us down. Ptolemy Philopator and the Alexandrian Jews. Let's see how he tried to cast us down, like said in Daniel 11 and 12. These threats. When he had returned to Egypt, he added to his evil deeds with the assistance of his drinking companions and friends who were strangers to everything just. Right? They were strangers to everything just, meaning, these were some exceedingly wicked people. He wasn't satisfied with his innumerable indecent acts, but he also advanced to such a degree of impudence that he circulated false reports in the various districts. Many of his friends took note of the king's purpose and followed his lead. He proposed to spread blame publicly amongst the Jewish nation. He set up a stone in the tower in the courtyard with the following inscription carved upon it: "None who refuse to sacrifice are to enter into their sanctuaries. In addition, all the Jews are to be registered in their property catalog. Those who object are to be taken by force and put to death. Those who are registered are to be branded on the body with fire with the ivy leaf sign of Dionysus, and are also to be assigned to their former limited civic status." So here it is. You're saying he gave him two options. You can die, or you let us, brand you with the symbol of another god. So imagine going and getting branded with the symbol of another god on your body. How would that look? That's like, well, the brother he gave the elder brother, he gave a perfect example. He said that's like you're a woman coming home and you see her with the name of another man tatted on her neck or something like that. How would that make you feel? And that was a perfect example, because that's, you would want to crash out. But yeah. Where were we? All right, those who are registered, okay. But so as to not seem hateful to all, he added, "But if any of them should prefer to join those who have been initiated into the mysteries, these are to enjoy political rights equal to the Alexandrians." Now some Jews, while pretending to detest the steps to be undertaken for the city's religion, readily surrendered themselves to share in great fame through the association they would have with the king. Right? So here it is. These were those sellouts. These were the people who, acted like they were against it, but they were low-key all for it. Like it says, they pretended to the test, but then they readily surrendered. So they're like, "Damn, man, we gotta forsake our heritage, basically." But then they went right ahead and did it. They just they acted like they was. That's like perfect example. Boom. Okay, let's say you ask someone to do something for you, right? And then you make it seem like, okay, so let's say you have food. Let's say you have food, right? You have food on your plate. And then you can't finish it all. It's too much. You got a friend right there and you're like, "Dang, bro, I can't finish all of this." do you mind finishing it for me? I really don't want to, and then they're trying to act like, dang, bro, you sure you can't eat it? Like, you sure you want me to eat it? I don't want to do that to you. Whole time, in their mind, they been waiting on you to slide that food over to them. So, but then they go right ahead and eat it. They act like they didn't want it, all of that. As soon as you give it to them, the plate's already clean. That was them. They pretended like they were pretending like they didn't go along with what Ptolemy was putting down. But then they went right ahead and went along with it. They didn't give it no second thoughts. They didn't fight it at all. That was them. Verse 32, but the honorable majority were strong and didn't depart from their religion. They bravely tried to save themselves from being registered by resorting to bribes in exchange for their lives. They remained hopeful of obtaining help, and they looked with contempt on the Jews who had deserted them. They considered those who gave in to be enemies of the Jewish nation and no longer associated with them or offer them assistance. All right, and if you were to read on, you would see more threats and more things that Ptolemy did against us in ways, in forms of trying to cast us down. And I say tried because if you were to read on, you would see that the Lord, he delivered us from what Ptolemy was trying to do. So yeah, that's Daniel 11 and 12. But one more read through. Daniel 11 verse 12. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up. So, he was very proudful after he had won the war. Ptolemy the fourth. And he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by you. So, with that being said, I would like to give once more all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.